Hi everyone, my name is Ellie and in today's video I'm going to be talking to you about what it's like to go through the menopause as a teenager. So when I was only 15 years old I was diagnosed with the menopause and I found it really isolating because I knew no other teenagers who were going through the menopause. The only person that I knew who went through the menopause was my nan and I wasn't going to talk to her about it. So it was really hard and I would go search on Google for other teenagers who are going through the menopause, but Google almost came back to me and said do not compute because barely anyone talks about the menopause anyways, so let alone teenagers. So that's why I want to create this video, because if you are sitting here watching this video and going through the menopause as a teenager, then I would love to just share my story with you, give you my advice so that you can feel like you can relate to somebody, because I almost felt like I was the only teenager in the world with the menopause. It was really difficult, so it's important that I do this video to help you. But if you are sat here watching this and you are a male or you are a female who has not gone through the menopause, then please do stay and watch this, because half of our population will go through the menopause at some point, so it's really important that you become informed about what the menopause is all about so you have a greater appreciation for what women have to go through. Okay. This is my non-menopausal twin sister. How do you feel that you're not going through the menopause?
Well, I feel pretty good because I'm not getting hot flashes and normal.
Normal, so I'm not normal then?
No.
So the diagnosis of the menopause was not a surprise to me because I was actually diagnosed with cancer in 2015. So I had to have 18 months of chemotherapy and 28 sessions of pelvic radiotherapy. And the doctors made me very aware that the two combined will cause me to go into the menopause. My ovaries failed, so I was no longer producing estrogen, progesterone or testosterone. So when I came out of treatment, I got the classic night sweats, hot flashes, and so the doctors put me on hormone replacement therapy and I started to feel a lot better from then on. But I must say that I was extremely ignorant to the full extent of the menopause. Being so young, I knew nothing about it. All that I knew was that when you go through the menopause, you get no periods. And for me, that was like hooray, because I was infertile anyways. So getting no periods was an absolute bonus for me because there was really no point of me having them. But what I didn't realise is that actually you have estrogen receptors all over your body. So low estrogen means that it can affect your cognition, it can give you joint pain, it can damage your bones. So I was not aware of this, so I really took no care and thought, you know what, I've been through cancer, the menopause is going to be a breeze. But I was so wrong, because I was on 30 micrograms of estrogen, but that HRT went out of stock, so my doctors put me on a new HRT which only had 20 micrograms of estrogen, and I really felt that my menopause symptoms came back in full force. I was getting night sweats again and I was feeling terrible, and I was actually feeling even worse this time round because when I just finished cancer treatment I was grappling with all the side effects from the cancer treatment, which was tiredness, achy joints, so I didn't really notice it as much. But then when I was coming to 2-3 years in remission and my HRT changed and I was feeling a lot more recovered from the chemotherapy, I felt the menopause symptoms a lot more, and it was horrible because I was going through my final year of A-levels at the time, and I would sit trying to do maths and my face was so itchy. I was literally felt like I had ants underneath my skin. It was horrible, and then I would wake up in the middle of the night absolutely drenched with sweat. But then when I talked to my doctors about it, they didn't really seem to care too much, and I was put on the waiting list to see an NHS endocrinologist, but that took 7 months to get that appointment. So within that time I was just suffering with the side effects, which was really difficult. But thankfully now I'm so much better. I did see the NHS endocrinologist, but I was slightly underwhelmed by his plan, so I ended up going privately. And funny story about that, I called up this private menopause clinic. I was like, hi, I would love to book an appointment with one of your menopause specialists. And she was like, sure, okay, we can book an appointment for you. What is your date of birth? And I began by saying I was born in the year of 2001, and then she stopped me and was saying, are you sure you've got the right phone number? You do realise we are a menopause clinic? And I was like, yes, sadly, I do have the right number because I was diagnosed with the menopause at 15 years old. So it's quite funny because no one ever expects you to have the menopause as a teenager, but this is something that we have to go through, and I did have that private consultation and that was fantastic. It was with Dr. Newson, so I will put the link to her website down below because she is absolutely amazing. So now I'm on a new HRT regime, which I will explain a lot more about in a separate video. Now I want to talk about how I felt as a teenager going through the menopause, what challenges I faced, because I think there's things and challenges that teenagers with the menopause go through that older women don't have to go through. And for me, I definitely felt like an outsider. I did not know any teenagers who were going through the menopause, and I just felt so distinctly different from my peers. So my peers were kind of developing properly, they were getting very curvy, and here was old little me looking very childlike still. So I compared my body image with my peers and felt that I was behind, and that was really, really difficult. And then another thing was, as you do in sixth form, you talk in the common room about intimate relationships, boyfriends, girlfriends, and I found I could not engage in those conversations because not only did I not have a relationship, but I had no desire to go into an intimate relationship, which was really hard for me because I thought, I'm 18 years old and I'm repulsed by the idea of an intimate relationship, and I actually quite like the idea of being a single cat lady for the rest of my life. So that's when I thought, you know what, we've got a problem here, and it made me feel really down because I just couldn't relate to the people who were my age, the other girls my age, because I did not feel these things. I had no desire to go into an intimate relationship, so I just felt like such an outsider. I kind of thought, what on earth is wrong with me? Another thing that I didn't really notice at the time because it was just my normal, but now that I'm on my new HRT regime, now that I reflect back, I realise how little energy I had. Because of the low testosterone, presumably, I was just tired all of the time. I almost felt like I was 18 going on 80. I just felt like an old woman. I would joke with my friends that I was an old lady, and that was the kind of joke that we had with one another. So it was really difficult because as a teenager, you want to start getting a job, you want to go out with your friends. But for me, I did not want to do any of that because I was just too tired to do it. Another really difficult emotion that I had to grapple with when I was going through the menopause was actually feeling rather undesirable, and this was because I had symptoms such as vaginal dryness, low libido, and these are things that you don't expect to have as an 18-year-old. As an 18-year-old you're in your prime, as they say, but that was not the case of me whatsoever, and I felt almost as if I would never ever get a boyfriend because I had no interest in any sort of intimacy, and I thought, you know what, we're just going to be a single cat lady for the rest of my life. And in terms of like the vaginal dryness, I was just too embarrassed to talk about it, even to my own doctors. I just didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't want to talk about it with anyone, so I did suffer in silence for a long time. And if you are suffering with those symptoms, please don't suffer in silence. Please do go and see your doctor because it just gets worse and worse if you leave it. It won't just suddenly get better. The reason for things like vaginal dryness and low libido tends to be a lack of estrogen. So if you are experiencing those symptoms, please do go and see your doctor. Ever since finishing cancer treatment, I've always been a very positive person. I'm a person who takes my problems in my stride. I don't try and fight against them. I try and embrace them. But I was becoming aware that I was becoming so down about this menopause thing because I felt so alien compared to my female peers at school, and I felt like it was going to affect the rest of my life. So it was really difficult. So I urge you, if you do feel a similar way, then please do talk to someone. Don't just suffer in silence like I did, because ultimately the menopause can be treated with hormones. So if you are feeling that way, then hormones will help you. So please do go and see your doctor. Now we're going to move on to my advice, which I'm really, really excited to share with you. So my first piece of advice is to educate yourself. So as teenagers, we don't really have anyone to talk to about the menopause, and we naturally don't know about the menopause because we're not of that age. So it's really important that you're not ignorant to the menopause, because I certainly was. When I was diagnosed, I thought that the menopause equaled no periods and that was it. But actually it can affect all different parts of your body. So I really recommend purchasing this book by the lovely Jane Lewis called Me and My Menopausal Vagina. She essentially gives her own experience with the menopause, and she also gives some advice for how you can deal with the menopause. And this was literally like a life changer for me, because I honestly did not know anything about the menopause, but when my mum bought me this book and I read it, it made me just join up the dots. It made me think, oh, that symptom that I was experiencing was actually due to the menopause. And she talks about it in such a brutally honest way that it doesn't make it embarrassing anymore, and it definitely increased my confidence to talk to other people about it. And she gives such amazing advice in there, so please do read this. And then another amazing resource is The Menopause Doctor, aka Dr. Louise Newson. She is absolutely fantastic. She is a menopause specialist who is so passionate about spreading awareness about the menopause and educating other people about the menopause. So do check her out on Instagram, because she does a lot of Instagram lives, and also check out her podcasts, which are absolutely amazing. She does podcasts about all different topics of the menopause, so they're super informative, because I think it's really important to empower yourself with information, because ultimately your doctor can help you, but only to a point, because you know your own body. So if you empower yourself with information, you recognize what symptoms you're having, and then you work out what treatments you need, whether that be local estrogen, testosterone, estrogen, then you can inform your doctor and tell them what's the best direction for you. Another thing I'd say is that you are not alone. Honestly, when I was diagnosed with the menopause, I felt like the only teenager on this planet who had the menopause, but that is simply not true. I really recommend joining a organisation called the Daisy Network. They are an organisation that helps support women with premature ovarian insufficiency, and for a £20 a year membership you can access their Facebook group chats, which I found particularly helpful because I've been able to talk to other teenagers and women in a similar situation to me. And then they also do live chats where you can talk to menopause specialists, so there's a real wealth of information on their site and lots of support to be had. And also, if you are going through the menopause as a teenager, then please do message me. You can email me, DM me on Instagram. I'll put all my social media links down below, because I'd be more than happy to talk to you. I think the most profound difference between being a teenager diagnosed with the menopause and an older woman being diagnosed with the menopause is the relationship side of things. Because if you're an older woman, then you tend to be in a partnership, whether that be marriage, engagement, or just, you know, whatever it may be. Whereas a teenager may not have even had their first relationship yet. Like, that was certainly my case when I was diagnosed at 15 years old, and it just adds an extra level of complicated, because I think teenagers find relationships, intimacy quite daunting anyways, but then when you add the menopause into the mix, it makes it even more complicated, because with an older woman, they may already have a partner that they trust, that they can talk to about the menopause. Whereas for us teenagers, whenever we go into a new relationship, we have to face the fact that at some point we have to tell them about the menopause, and it can feel quite daunting because you don't know how they're going to react to that. But what I would say to you is that you are not worthless. If you get into a relationship, you tell them about the menopause, and they think that's a deal breaker, they don't want to be with you anymore, then just bin them off. They are literally not worth your time. You deserve better, because really, the menopause is only a very small part of you. If they really wanted to be with you, then they would see you as a whole, the amazing person that you are. So just remember, you're not worthless. And you know, it can feel really scary telling them about the menopause, because you're not sure what their reaction will be. But if it's a very trusting, lovely relationship, then your partner will be completely fine with it, or at least they should be. If not, bin them off. Just another thing to add, I think it's really important to be honest. You must be honest about the menopause, because of course if you're going through the menopause, then in the future you will have fertility issues, and it does affect you in other ways. So you must be honest with your partner. Please don't leave it from them. But obviously if you are in a new relationship, then only tell them when you feel comfortable to do so. My next tip is that if you're getting menopausal symptoms, or you are on HRT but your menopausal symptoms are coming back, please don't just leave the symptoms to brew like I did, because they don't just suddenly get better, they just tend to get worse. So make sure you go see your doctor, and If you haven't already, then request to see a menopause specialist. I think this is especially important for young women because young women with the menopause need to be treated differently to older women because younger women, especially teenagers, need a higher dose of estrogen. So getting that expert advice from a menopause specialist is imperative. The last thing that I want to touch on before I end this video is about testosterone therapy, because I think this is especially important for young women, but there's so much controversy about it and not a lot of people know that women need testosterone. But in fact, women actually produce more testosterone than estrogen. So it's really important that if you are a teenager that you do get your testosterone replaced. I have recently gone onto testosterone. I have been on it for nearly 4 weeks now. I've definitely noticed the difference. I feel so much more energized when I'm doing my runs and workouts. I tire less quickly. So it's definitely very good because testosterone plays a huge part in libido, muscle mass, and energy levels. So once you go onto testosterone, you will really notice a difference. So I really recommend getting that. Some GPs are not very receptive to the idea of testosterone purely because they are ignorant to or misinformed about the benefits of testosterone, because currently in the UK it is not actually licensed for women. So that makes healthcare professionals think that it's not for women, but it actually is, and it's really important that you do get some testosterone. I know a lot of women have their concerns that if they go into testosterone, their voice will get lower and they'll get hair in places that they shouldn't, but that's not the case because you should be on a dose of testosterone so low that you will not get any of those male adverse effects. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I really hope this video helped you. I know how hard the menopause is as a teenager because I think being a teenager is complicated enough, but then when you throw the menopause in the mix, it just makes it even more complicated. So if you have any questions, please do leave them in the comment section down below. And again, if you are going through the menopause as a teenager, then please do reach out to me on social media or email. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something and I'll see you in the next video.